So for any of you aching for some green bean news, I don't have any. But I have driven her a few times, actually. We've been in a situation where a couple times I've actually needed a car, and I had to fire her up and drive her around. I also drove her out to see some buddies of mine from high school, and that was nice. But I have a plan. So going forward, the series is going to resume. I've got to finally, I'm over the whole process of getting her ready for her safety test. So I got to put a top on her. So I have to put a top on her. I have to deal with the God darn it.
Seatbelt?
Well, I have to get a new seatbelt. That's absolutely true. But the differential, I have to get the differential filling plug out. And I think I'm going to have to make a tool to do it, which means, by the way, it occurred to me, I can make a tool in part using the welder. I've been watching a lot of welding videos. I bet you I can weld.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Sabrina is wearing the Rima, the 3-register Rima. Absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous movement. Same basic movement that's in a Paul Newman Daytona. There we go. Now it's ready.
Okay.
There it is. I am going to wear this watch until the other watch from this same lot, its brother, is ready. So until that Hoyer is ready, I'm going to be wearing its brother from that same watch lot. The last part, in theory, is on its way here, and I hope to gosh I'm not dooming myself to a life of having to wear this Panda forever. But that's it. The last part is in California. I just hope that it's going to be here soon. And with that amazing segment, let's do it.
Okay, about the wall clock I bought.
No, the wall clock, it's cool. I saw it today.
I see it every day.
Well, no, I saw it's got that sweep seconds hand, and that's reflective, and I saw it reflect. It was neat. It looked neat.
Okay. Francis Palmer 9737. Love the clock, a very nice present, and the sweep hand does it for me. Nice one, Sabrina. Seriously, I found it by complete accident, and I was like, damn.
I just think it's interesting that it uses a tuna bezel, because it's just somebody at Seiko made a conscious decision for that.
Yeah, but I don't know, maybe somebody had to change things because if somebody had to come up with the idea of a watch as a clock and had to convince people.
I didn't look on the back. I'm so sorry.
What?
No, you're right. I just realized that the clock, I don't realize, it might have been made by S2 Corporation, SII Corporation, which would mean it was actually made by SUA.
Oh, well, I don't know.
Sorry, my brain completely short-circuited right then. I was listening to you, and then I saw SII blaze in front of my eyes, and I'm like, holy crap, is it a dive watch clock that's also made by SUA?
I don't know. Mail call to Cat39126. Recently picked up the SBGW297 as a modern replacement for my stolen 457,000 King Seiko. My goodness, GS can make some amazing looking watches. At 36.5 millimeters, maybe Sabrina would enjoy these smaller GS. Truly, we are living in a golden age of horology. The art of watchmaking has never been higher in craftsmanship and quality. How big is that?
It's 30. It's a little bit bigger than the Rolex Explorer. It's actually an excellent size for you. I took a picture of one. I'm going to insert it right here. And yeah, it's a great size. That particular model, as you will have seen, is a no-date model done in very classic Seiko style with diamond polished markers, and it just exquisitely done. And the movement is a 9S 46 or 64. In any case, it's a 9S. Really, really beautiful, slim movement with kind of an interesting old school setup in that it has, it doesn't have like a separate, it has basically, it doesn't have a separate barrel bridge and train bridge, or even kind of separate. The entire back surface of the movement is a single plate, including the diathic settings and all the other, the mainspring barrel arbor and all that stuff. It's all one plate. And then you have a single balance cock, but it's a super burly one. It's like really, really, it's almost triangular. It's so big and heavy. I'm sure it's an exquisite watch, and I read something about them. I was reading about the movement. They're a hand winder, but they use a mainspring with a bridle, a sliding clutch, or whatever you want to call it. So you never have to worry about breaking the mainspring. You can wind it forever. And I'm like, that's a pretty darn good idea. Why didn't they do that before?
Dave HETCHEL. Hi, Spencer.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot one last thing. Yes, we are living in a golden age of watchmaking, watch availability, watch knowledge, watch literacy, availability, all the windows of different styles that are opening up, all the micro brands. We are in an absolute golden age of horology right now. These are the good old days, as the song goes. These are the good old days right now.
Dave HETCHEL. Hi, Spencer. I have the Seiko SRPE93 with the 4R36 movement, successor to the SRP777 Seiko Turtle, which I can no longer hand wind. I noticed this one day while setting the time date. The previous time I wore it, I had no issues. The crown pops out to the normal position fine and spins freely, but I feel no resistance and no engagement from the click. The time setting and the day crown positions work fine. I can wind the watch with movement via the rotor, and it still seems to keep accurate time. Also, the power reserve seems unaffected. There are no other issues with the watch. The watch is about a year old, but has some sentimental value now. I just want to understand what the failure may be and possibly try to fix it myself. Also, will wearing it cause any more damage? I'm a big fan of your videos and I've been watching them for years.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm wondering if I goofed up and put this. I think I've answered a question very much like this.
I don't remember reading this.
You don't remember reading it? I made a video about something like that. These movements, the 4R36s, they're a derivation of the 7S family, which was automatic wind only. And Seiko kind of did some crazy monkeying around to introduce hand winding and all the other stuff at that point. And the gearing for that stuff, for like the hand winding, isn't that robust. It's one of those things that's kind of like almost like the Seiko 6138 has hand winding, but the gearing for it is actually rather light. And to my mind, it was clearly intended to be a backup to the automatic winding, and it simply was not up to snuff. I had one come in for service, a 6138, where the automatic winding had died, and so the guy kept it alive by using the manual winding constantly, and the manual winding was just destroyed. Like I've never seen it before or since. It was just eaten up completely. How often, I guess, were you manually winding it? Would be the next question. You probably lost a tooth off of a gear. That's what I would think would be going on. That's just my first guess.
Paul Canomos. If looking to upgun a movement, is it better to go with a high beat or more jewels, 5106 versus 5626 for an example? What would be the pros and cons of each?
My 6200 series watches, like my 62 MAS, my 6218s and stuff like that, those movements beat at 18,000 BPH. And they're so exquisitely accurate. They have this big, slow balance and just turning back and forth, slower beat rate. And they're just dead on. They're steady as a rock. Those movements are fully jeweled in pretty much every way you can imagine, except for the upper and lower mainspring arbor ports. But the driving, these don't have a ton of force being pushed through them like, say, a 6159 or something else like this. So they don't really need it. I mean, it's very rare for me to see serious arbor port wear in a 6200 series watch. And if you get like a 6216 or the 6246, the GS version, those you have arboring there, and those movements are they're bulletproof. High beat, I think, is less reliable in the long term, and it works by, obviously by subdividing a second more finely, which means you're smoothing out the average right there, which produces a more accurate flow. Plus, you've got a lot of centripetal force keeping everything in spinning like it is. But I just think you're pumping a ton of power into it to get a high rate or high frequency, so you get a better average evened out count. I'd go with joules and a slow beat rate any day of the week. Thank you for the question.
Anthony J. Archibald. Hi Spencer, hope you are well.
Right now, I'm doing okay. Thank you.
Are there any movements that I can fit into my Seiko Turtle? The 6309 keeps pretty good time. However, I really like the reliability of the SRP777 movement.
Okay, so this is actually an email that I received, and I thought it was an interesting question, and so I wanted to put it on here. So my answer, if it was correct and or relevant, could be of use to somebody, even as a negative example. Okay, so here's the deal. I have through just because I wanted to see if it can be done, I have ascertained that you can move certain Dainey and Sua movements back and forth.
I thought it was Dainey.
It is Dainey. And you're right, and I'm wrong. But okay, so what was I talking about? So it can be done. That, like, the physical size of the movements, you can horse one into the other. Like, you can put a Dainey 5126 into any of the 6000 cases, any of them, which is pretty nutty. I have very first mod watch Seiko I ever made was a 5126. No, was a 6119 movement dial and handset transplanted into a 5126 rally diver case, and I did it because no one told me that I couldn't. I didn't know that I couldn't, so I just went ahead and did it, and it worked out. I have that watch to this day. But the problem is, this is the number one problem, 6309s have the crown at 4 o'clock, whereas like a 7S, a modern movement like that, the crown is at 3:45, and so nothing exchanges. You would have to make that work, you would have to take your 6309 dial, cut off the feet, then attach it at the correct date window at 3, crown at 4 position, but then you run into a problem because the crown is at 3:45. That means the date window is set for 3:40 for that crown to be 3:45, which means if you take the 3:45 and you run it to 4, all of a sudden the numbers are now in between on the window instead of in the window because they're misaligned. You have another problem is that you need to have a day wheel that's at 4 o'clock, not 3:45 or 3, and they don't exist as far as I know. I mean, you can get them aftermarket, but I'm trying to think if Seiko even makes that. So those would be the problems that you have, is you're missing a couple crucial components that they'd be just real problem to hunt down. My recommendation is just to stick with the original 6309 movement, though that's not the sexy option. That's probably the sensible one.
4TH Seiko 7005-8052 Poor Man 62 MAS. Benoggle 8151. Hey, this is a super helpful video. How do you press the bezel back on? What should the retainer clip look like? How much pressure is necessary? I have one of these and I can't get the bezel back on.
Okay, so I'm going to put in a segment right here because I could talk about what it's supposed to look like, but I'll find a way to try to illustrate what we're talking about. So hopefully this will be useful. This is for a 62 MAS, but the one for that model, the Poor Man's 62 MAS, is the same. They're different when it comes to a 6105. The 6105 has kind of like a curved piece that has a 3-point contact, essentially. Whereas this, wait, 1, 2, 3, the septagonal, well, actually it is octagonal. That represents, these 2 points represent the 8th plane. This octagonal ring fits right inside here. This is an NOS rotating ring there, or a sport diver. Oh, come on, get in there. Stop fighting me. And so it fits right into that slot, which keeps not happening. Let's just go over here. It's still not in that slot. This is what I get for trying to... And that's what it looks like. So, and there's a corresponding ridge, little ridge on the bezel of the watch, and you're snapping it on there. Basically, I put it on, and it shouldn't take a lot of pressure, just a light hand pressure, and I might twist a little bit, or I might go like this, trying to work it down like that. And these normally will just kind of snap in. They'll just go tick. If you really feel like you're having to really force it, something's wrong. You can try to make sure that you started on one of these, that you like go on and catch it on a one side, and then sometimes I can work it around and get it to drop in. But these really, they shouldn't take that much work. So I wish you the best of luck, and I'm sure that you're capable of doing it. I hope that was useful.
Is this next one you have a segment for too?
It's possible.
For LZ, Seiko 782877049 restoration. From the mill. How do you unseize a bezel? Is there a segment?
Yes.
Okay, then how to remove a crystal, how to remove a link in one of these links.
I have segments for all 3 of these questions, and those segments are coming up right now. Okay. So you had asked a few questions about these. How to make it so if this bezel is seized up, how do you get it to turn again? That was the first question. One of the issues with this, they're beautifully made, and they're made with tight tolerances. There's not a lot of space between any part of this rotating ring and the watch underneath it, the watch case. What that means is if it gets dirty, if it gets really seriously dirty, and then especially if it starts holding water and it can start corroding, there's so little clearance that any extra material in there will start locking this ring up right away. Getting this ring off of this watch was just really something. I had to use razor blades all the way around it with all kinds of protective wrapping in order to finally get the ancient hardened gasket just impacted with rust out of this thing. Like, it was just packed in here. I had to use lighter fluid first. I ran in a bunch of lighter fluid around this to try to get it to start even breaking up a little bit, all the rust and crap, and that wasn't enough. In a perfect world, all you'd really need is your Seiko case knife, and then you look here at the top of the case, and in theory, you should be able to see that little slot right there. And you would just wrap this thing in protective film, or even just like a plastic bag, seriously. Even just doing this, just wrapping it with plastic and then getting this into the gap. Don't ever try to do this straight just like that. You'll, especially on this kind of bead blasted finish, it shows marks like you wouldn't believe if you go in there and you accidentally twist it or tweak it or something, and you'll end up with a bright shiny mark. And it's just the only way to get rid of it is to have the case re-bead blasted. How to get the crystal out is the same process as this 7002, because they have, oh wait, not this 7002, that's the wrong 7002. This one has a standard crystal gasket and crystal retaining ring, unlike the 7S26 models, where this is all solid metal part of the case, And the gasket is a hard nylon eye profile gasket, and you press the crystal into the complete case. This is a crystal retaining ring that holds the crystal down in place. But let's pretend for a second this is the other one where you just press it out. You have to have a crystal press, and you take the case back off, and you drop the movement out. Then again, using some kind of a plastic protector, you go and you put this into the crystal press, so you have there's a die pressing up like this, and then you clamp it down, and it pushes out the crystal from the inside. And you reverse that, but you need a crystal press. So you're going to need a few basic tools in order to get this done. Case knives are not very expensive. Starter crystal presses are really cheap on eBay. And they do the job. I use actually one of my two. I have one super nice crystal press, and I have one of the cheapos, and I've had one of the cheapos for 15 years now, and I still use it. I use it not every day, but I certainly use it every week. There's my cheapo, and it's all beaten up. You can see that there, but it works. It comes with nylon dies, and for certain applications it's perfect. Like any kind of a dive watch application with a rotating ring like this, I use these with the nylon stuff. Plus, again, protective material, not necessarily a plastic bag, but some kind of protective material. The other one I have is my super cool Japanese-made Vigor press, and it comes with all metal dies. This thing is pretty awesome. But, each one has its place, depending on what it is that I'm doing. This will be a better straight push for things that are really tight and have to be driven in cleanly. This is good for, if you have to kind of wiggle something, kind of get it through, because I can be pressing this, and I can hold the die, and I can kind of press, I can kind of direct the energy as I'm pushing in. So this works too. They each have their place. Opening a link in one of these, you need a link remover kit. And again, I'll show you what I use. My set is nothing super special. You can get really nice ones. I've been limping along on one of the cheapos for a really long time. So I just, like, this has this little anvil-y thing, and you can put your bracelet in there, and then it has these little drivers in it. These you just drive this pin out. Any one of these removable links will have the ends are open, and it's just a straight pin, and you just push it out, and this comes apart here, and then you take out the extra link and put it back together. Just like that. I don't even know how long I've owned this tool. It comes in handy all the time.
The 3 known Vietnam Special Forces MACV SOG watches, Jake G2272. Are the numbers green or white? They look green.
Okay. I made a segment. I did. Okay. So this is the 6106 version of the MACV SOG watches. As I always like to preface, some people like to say, oh, that this wasn't one of them. There are, a number of models that had this layout. There was a 66191, one, there was a 6119, and then there was the 6106, as well as the 7005. The other 3 have photographic evidence from the book Running Recon that shows them. This particular case style does not, but I don't know why Seiko would create a watch that used the same dial and hands as the other MACVs and then not have it be an issue piece. So I always like to open with that, just in case anybody's gonna, sniff at this thing. In any case, this is actually rather less green than they normally are. They tend to be a pretty much a deeper green, more like more like this 62 MAS. I don't know if you can tell, this is sliding towards the tanner side of things. This is green, and sometimes this is not the model. Look at the hands on this. Sometimes you'll even see them with a green, almost as green as that, as the hands on this 7002, which is going to be used in another video. Let me put its rotating ring. Let me align its rotating ring. Let's all just pretend that that's in there just the way it ought to be. So there's that greenness. But other than the shade, they're all going to be printed the exact same way. They have silver printing on the dial, including underneath the numbers, and then you have this matte printing that goes on top of it. That's just how they're done. And these were really these models were the only ones that used this font in this size and this method of application. It seems very clear to me these models were all following the same requisition order. And again, also because, as with the others, the model number, the casing number like this, there you go, 61198090, there isn't the exact same case model and movement and everything else, but with a civilian dial. And that's true for all of the other MAC-V models. They all have a civilian version dial and then the MAC-V dial. This is the MAC-V version of this dial. Normally it would have just a basic dress watch dial. So this is, as far as I'm concerned, this is a MAC-V watch. Very pretty too. One of the reasons I like the 6106s as well is, of course, they hack, which is a nice thing.
For JL, Seiko 6105 8119 restoration, Ian Tan 6141. Hi there, I know you put this out a long time back, but I'm so curious as to how you did the relume for the bezel. I have the same problem where the original dot is missing.
I haven't made a segment for this, but I'm going to. So here, I'll put that. Okay, this will be really quick. I hope it'll be informative. So here we have a 6009, 7002, 7548 style bezel. Right there. And the way these work is the pip is lume on top of a plastic lume pip window right here. This is a stepped design where it actually, the outer opening and the inner opening, two different diameters. The inner opening is larger, so it looks kind of like a Devo hat if it was only 2 levels. In order to replicate one, this is just a quick punch out, so this isn't really indicative of a finished product. But what I do is I take a staking set, and there's some punches on there that are basically a round circular punch blade, very thin, and you go to a piece of clear plastic, vinyl or something, you can punch out a circle, and if you get the right size, this is the size for the inside. I put this in here, and then I lume in behind it, and it looks pretty decent, and it functions correctly as well. I keep thinking that one of the things that would be nice to do is to actually have these lume pip windows remade, because as far as I know, absolutely nobody makes them. And if we had those, it would be an easy plug-and-play solution to fixing everybody's bezels, because you'd have the inserts already there. You just pop in your lume window and off you go.
4BS, Seiko 6119 8460 Gene Krantz restoration, Gold Bond 1114. Quick question for you, Spencer. How often should you service a watch if it's only worn occasionally? Many conflicting opinions online, and surprisingly many saying they don't bother servicing at all, or at least until something goes wrong. Much appreciated. Well, not as dire as a car. I think just generally with mechanical things, you shouldn't wait until it breaks.
Yeah, I mean, I just did a re-service on a gentleman's watch, and it was like 5.5 years, okay? So that's the regular service interval, and when it came back in, I mean, it had a materials failure. The mainspring kind of gave up the ghost. So it was running really poorly as a result. But looking at it, I could see where all the lubricant was gone. It had all dried up. 5 years of wearing it. I don't think he'd been particularly hard on it. I don't know that he'd really worn it a lot, but the lubrication was simply gone. I know a lot of guys say to wear a watch until it starts behaving like it needs service. There's something to that. It's hard to judge. I found that it's hard to judge how well a watch is running with just by looking at, say, its timekeeping or something. I've had watches that seem to keep pretty decent time, and I'd slap them on the time grapher and find that they were barely running. And so when you have a mainspring that's full of old dry grease, trying to push a gear train in dry jewels with, whatever wear material, dust that had been inside the case, attracted to, now stuck to the jewels and the pinions of those wheels, it's, with pushing a pallet fork back and forth that doesn't have any lubrication on its pallet stones, to a balance that has dry dia-shock cups, top and bottom. And so you're trying to push this whole machine around without the correct lubrication.
Seiko 6159 7010 servicing part 1, Bill Rundle 5128. I have one that just stopped working for no discernible reason. It's 9 years old. I live in DR now. Any ideas?
Well, I mean, you've had it for 6 years. The 6159s are, those were made in the 1970s. Maybe you mean a modern version of it. Why would a watch stop running out of the blue? Well, I mean, did it get dropped? Because if you break, typically what breaks, if you drop a watch, I'm not saying you did, just reasons why watches stop out of the blue. Something has to have gone physically wrong. Something is eating all the power, or there's no power being generated, or the power is just, the gear train is stopped. So, did you drop it?
I said, did you run into a doorknob?
Well, which is, and again, this is any kind of anything for anything. Believe me, doorknobs happen. They simply do. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it can take just the right hit to damage a watch in some way that's stopping it from going. There was one point, what was it? I was wearing my Omega Speedmaster, my 18, my moon watch, and I was opening up the hatch up to the attic up there. I was doing some work out here, but I pulled really hard like this, whack, and I got it out, and the watch stopped. It stopped, and what I figured out, I popped the back, and it was stuck. And what I figured it had happened, that I had given it a huge shock right exactly when it was in the perfect position to be bumped, to turn slightly too far, and the roller jewel got somehow bombed up and stuck on top of the pallet fork. So, and it pinned them both in place, and the watch simply stopped. So I loosened up the balance cock and everything, and balance bridge, and gave it, let it release back in, and it's been fine since then. But boy, I have to tell you, when I wear that watch, I'm always a little careful with it.
Seiko 101, changing the capacitor in a kinetic GET1 Landmaster.
Oh, one last thing too. It could be super magnetized. Demagnetizers are cheap. They're on eBay. And for a mechanical watch, there's really nothing you can do to them, any damage with a demagnetizer, and they can cure problems. Sorry.
Do I have to read that whole thing again? I don't want to.
You don't?
No.
No, just start. I'll read it if you want.
Read the title.
Seiko 101, changing the capacitor in a kinetic Gen 1 Landmaster.
Wait, why'd you write GET?
Because I misspelled it. I typed a T instead of N.
Joshua McHale. Do you know if there's any way to fit another Seiko dive bezel onto these instead of the compass one? I would love to know if you could fit a 7002 bezel onto this.
Well, believe it or not, I actually made a segment.
Wow, and we have lots of bezel things happening today.
We do have lots of bezel things happening, but so hopefully this will be useful. This is for 62 MAS, but the one for that model, the poor man's 62 MAS, is the same. They're different when it comes to a 6105. The 6105 has kind of like a curved piece that has a 3-point contact, essentially. Whereas this, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, the septagonal, well, actually, it is octagonal. That represents, these 2 points represent the 8th plane. This octagonal ring fits right inside here. This is an NOS rotating ring there. For a sport diver. Oh, come on, get in there. Stop fighting me. And so it fits right into that slot, which keeps not happening. Let's just go over here. It's still not in that slot. This is what I get for trying to and that's what it looks like. So, and there's a corresponding ridge, little ridge on the bezel of the watch, and you're snapping it on there. Basically, I put it on, and it shouldn't take a lot of pressure, just a light hand pressure, and I might twist a little bit, or I might go like this, trying to work it down like that. And these normally will just kind of snap in. They'll just go tick. If you really feel like you're having to really force it, something's wrong. You can try to make sure that you start it on one of these, that you like go on and catch it on a one side, and then sometimes I can work it around and get it to drop in. But these really, they shouldn't take that much work. So I wish you the best of luck, and I'm sure that you're capable of doing it. I hope that was useful. McHale, did you watch McHale's Navy? That's what I want to know.
But it's spelled differently.
Was it? Is he MAC?
No, maybe I pronounced it wrong.
Oh, it's spelled completely different. I thought it was literally like, like McHale's Navy, like the t-shirt, like the TV show. Sorry. In any case, if you haven't watched McHale's Navy, it's a great piece of, 60s Americana. Why not? I've never been to McHale before. All right, folks. And for the last of you, if you really want more content, I put in an outtake. All right, bye. Yeah, and so that is the watches that we are wearing.
We just went to wrist check.
I took a drink of water. But the nice thing is, because if I can get a top on Green Bean, then she can actually live outside. Don't worry, she'd be undercover and everything else like that. But that means I could get to work on the GT.
I love how he needed a drink of water, so then he's like, okay, we'll do wrist check now. And then he immediately goes back to talking about the car. And you guys are probably like, okay.
She wants the GT to be white exterior with a red interior. That's the current goal.
I want it to be like a rally car. Wouldn't that be neat? What?
I don't know, because it seems to me we've got two competing visions here. Plus,
what's your vision? I don't care that Sebastian wants it.
Sebastian's like, Morris is not going to be a rally car. Mommy keeps saying that.